Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to have a particular problem that's going to ask us to calculate and interpret direct material and direct labor variances. So I selected this problem so that you just don't memorize each of the steps because every particular problem will be different, all right? However, one of the steps that I do want you to summarize is this equation, all right? So this is a summary of the analysis of standards. So standard costing is you're going to compare a budget to actual. And so what would happen was they saw that there was a difference from actual to budget. Well, that's great. What was causing the difference? So standard costing is going to break it down to what's causing the particular difference. All right, so here's the summary. The summary for the direct materials. So why don't you pause the video for a second? All right, so now you're back. So this summary I taught you with variable costing, but we're going to use it for direct materials and direct labor. Here's your first column, actual quantity times actual price. Next column, actual quantity times standard price. Last column, standard quantity times standard price. Get, quantity always comes first. Second is the price. Your first column will be actual, your last column will be standards. The middle column, your first item will always be actual quantity times standard price. Okay, so kind of look it out for direct labor as well. So we're gonna get rid of quantity. Now we're gonna put hours. We're gonna get rid of price. Now we're gonna put the rate. So what's the rate per hour? So actual hours times actual rate. But look at the similarity. Standard hours. Oops. Guess what? We're really glad I just did this, right? Actual hours. All right? Seeing if you're paying attention. Actual hours times standard rate. Standard hours times standard rate. Okay, so that I caught because this column, your first item will always be actual. All right, so let's look at the problem. Here's what it says. So these can be daunting. Just break them down individually. The Wyndham Restaurant Group manufactures the bags of frozen French fries used at its franchised restaurants last week. Wyndham purchased and used 98,000 pounds of potatoes at a price of 85 cents per pound. So here's what I like to do. I set up these problems and I label them. Here's my actual, here's my standard. Okay, so I'm going to go down and I'm going to break down each of these pieces. Well, here's my first item. Wyndham purchased and used, that's your actual, 98,000 pounds of its potatoes. They actually paid 85 cents per pound. During the week, 2,100 direct labor hours were incurred. That's actual. Incurred means that's happened. So 2,100 of direct labor hours. And then I read on that the plant rate, so that's an actual rate of $12.45 per hour. Now I can't stress enough, be very careful when you take notes and you write these numbers. I do it as well. So if I'm going too fast, I write it as 1250 when it should have been 1245. So write actual numbers, take your time, do not transpose them. The standard price per pound of potatoes is $1. Okay, so there's my dollar per pound for my standard price. The standard rate per pound is $12.15. I put that here. That's the direct labor rate. The direct labor rate per hour is $12.15. Standards indicate for the number of bags of frozen fries produced, the factory should have used 95,000 of pounds. That's a standard number. And 2,000 of direct labor hours. So should have used, that's a standard. That's an estimate. Okay? All right, so now here's the first question. Determine the direct materials price and quantity variances. Be sure to label each variance as favorable or unfavorable. Okay, so I'm going to go back up here. So from this column to this column is going to be my direct materials price variance. So I'm going to relabel it, and I'll label it the same as you saw last week. All right, so the quantity is actually the same, so that will be my outside of the parentheses, actual quantity. Again, we're working from the summary. Actual price will go first minus my standard price. Okay? All right, so now I do it out. So my actual quantity, I work right from my notes. My actual quantity was 98,000. I do what's inside the parentheses. My actual price that I paid per pound of potato was 0.85. Don't forget to put in the 0.85 minus $1. Okay? All right, now remember, you can eye it before you begin. I thought I was going to pay $1. That's my standard. I actually paid 85 cents. That's good. So my answer will be favorable. So I take 98,000 times 0.15, and that will equal 14,700, and I already told you that's a big F for favorable. That's favorable. All right, now let's work on the direct materials quantity variance. Okay, so this is my price. Here's my quantity. So my quantity, I'm going to go from here to here. I look at what's different. I'm going to take the standard price. Here's my parentheses. And then I'm going to take my actual quantity minus my standard quantity. Again, just working from this summary. Okay? All right, so now I input my numbers. My standard price, we said, was $1. $1. And then let me do it right here. All right, so $1. I'm running out of room. My actual quantity is 98,000 minus my standard quantity of 95. And this one wasn't too bad. They didn't make me figure out the standard quantity. They gave it to me. Okay, so that's going to equal so this will be 3,000 right here, right? And it's times $1. So it's 3,000. All right, let me go back to whether it's favorable or unfavorable. Okay, so I thought I was going to use 95,000 for my standard quantity. Well, guess what? I ended up using more, 98,000. So that is not good, right? So that's going to be a big U for an unfavorable. I ended up using more of the potatoes than what I originally planned to make those French fries. So that's unfavorable, okay? All right, so let's go back. Your labor rate is favorable. Your quantity is unfavorable. All right, so the explanations, direct labor equals a cheaper supplier. So that's why your direct labor rate was lower. You found a better price for this particular supplier of potatoes. Well, here's the problem. Price doesn't always go with quality, right? So the price was cheaper, but the quality of the potatoes were bad. So cheaper supplier, but equals bad quality potatoes. Okay, so they had a lot of rotten potatoes in the bunch. Okay? All right. So now let's go to, that's your answer to number 1 and 2. Let's go to number 3. Okay, so number 3 is going to look for the direct labor rate variance. All right, now I'm going to work for my summary. Okay, so what's the same? Well, hours will be on the outside. What's different? The rate, the actual rate, minus the standard rate. Okay? All right, so your actual hours, I get right from the problem. The actual direct labor hours were 2,100. Okay? The actual rate I get right from the problem is 12.45. The standard rate I get right from the problem is 12.15. Take your time. Make sure you don't transpose a number. I take the difference between these two, and that is 30 cents. All right, but now I'm going to eye it before I just finish it. I thought it was going to pay $12.15 per hour to my direct labor workers. Here's the problem. I ended up paying them $12.45, so there must have been a lot of overtime in that. So that is going to be unfavorable. All right, so I'm going to take 2,100. I multiply it by 0.30, and I'm going to get 630 unfavorable. So make sure you understand whether it's unfavorable or favorable. All right, now let's do the direct labor efficiency variance. Okay, so again, the direct labor efficiency is going to be your middle column and your last column. All right, so I look, what's the difference? Well, standards rate is exactly the same. That's going to be on the outside of my equation. On the inside is going to be my actual hours minus my standard hours. Okay? All right, now I just input my numbers. So now I've got my standard rate. I grab right from here, $12.15. And then my actual hours were 2,100. All right, did they make me figure out the standard hours? Okay. Nope, they did not. So this problem, they gave us a lot of these numbers. They will all be asked differently. Okay, so the standard hours are 2,000. All right, before you begin, you thought it was going to take your workers 2,000 hours. It took them 2,100. They worked more than what you originally thought, okay? So you take the difference between, that's going to be unfavorable. Take the difference between the two, which is 100. Take 12.15 times 100, and that gives you 1,215, but that's a big U, unfavorable. All right, what are the reasons? I'm kind of running out of room, so just listen to what the reasons could be. All right, so they worked a lot of overtime. They're working with inferior potatoes, okay? So the rate went up because they're working a lot of overtime. They're paying overtime rates. And the hours went up, so they ended up working more hours. Those are plausible explanations for this, okay? All right, get in the lab, get that homework, and you'll be good.